Hi folks. So, the Kraken wakes. This did not go the way that I was expecting it to go. You could be forgiven for thinking, looking at the cover, that this was going to involve giant sea creatures, big squid, kind of a Godzilla of the deep type affair. But no, it's an alien friggin' invasion story. Was not what I was expecting at all. So written in the early 1950s, this book is 70 odd years old, so I'm going to throw caution to the wind and say that this will be filled with spoilers, so you have been warned. So The Kraken Wakes is a novel in 3 parts. Our protagonists are a husband and wife team, Mike and Phyllis, and they are journalists and writers who work for the fictional English Broadcasting Corporation. And pretty quickly over the course of the book, they become the resident experts on a series of strange phenomena. So quite close to the beginning, some red meteors hit the sea, quite a lot of them all around the world. Are they meteors? Or is it the Russians? Kraken was written in 1953, or was published in 1953, so just as the Cold War really was getting going. But if it's not the Russians, then what are they? And why are they all hitting the deepest parts of the ocean? Journalists write their articles, seeking scientific input and then tapping up some contacts that they have in Admiralty for some inside information. After a while, the initial phenomenon kind of fades into the background. It's yesterday's news. It goes off the front and into the middle pages of the paper. But then ships start going down. Often with all hands, but occasionally there are survivors who have a garbled tale to tell. Global shipping is affected, economies start to decline, particularly seafaring economies like Britain's. The attacks escalate, dozens of ships are sunk, and soon the attacks are ramped up even more with attacks on coastal towns and villages. The aliens, if that's what they are, have been busy in the depths of the ocean, building amphibious tanks, far out sticky web which can capture unprotected people, who are then dragged underneath the waves. Thousands are lost in this way before the coastal defences are shored up. I was expecting some kind of typical British boffinry solve the problem, develop some kind of super weapon to defeat the invaders. While some countermeasures are developed, none are particularly effective or not for very long. After the coastal attacks are thwarted, with nothing more advanced than landmines and rocket launchers, I began to believe that humanity was gaining the upper hand. The coastal attacks stop. Nothing is seen or heard of the deep sea horde for a while. But wait, they are not done. They're causing the ice caps to melt directly and indirectly. Sea level starts to rise. Nothing too bothersome at first. Some high tides, some minor flooding, an inconvenience. There's the usual official complacency until scientists come to predict an eventual sea rise of over 120 feet, enough to inundate much of Britain and elsewhere too. The final third of the book is basically a disaster movie. It's quite a jarring change. One minute our reporters are writing about a strange increase in icebergs, and the next they're driving a motorboat down a London street, dodging starving gangs and trying to find a haven. So that's the story in a nutshell. Wyndham's characters are very relatable, with Mike and Phyllis serving as the eyes through which we witness the gradually unfolding chaos. Their relationship is put to the test as they grapple with fear, isolation, probably post-traumatic stress disorder, and loss in a world descending into chaos. The progression of their character and their resilience in the face of disaster is inspiring too. Arguably one of Wyndham's greatest strengths as a writer lies in his ability to blend science fiction with social commentary seamlessly. Kraken Wake serves as a metaphor for the anxieties of the era, where the lurking threat of nuclear war loomed large. The aliens in this novel, who primarily dwell in the deep ocean, mirror the fear of the unknown that characterised the time. I did find the first 2/3 of the book a little lacking in terms of my involvement in the story. As I was reading it, I thought that the choice of 2 journalists to tell the tale was an odd one. I would have preferred to be closer to the action, as it were. On reflection, though, no one was close to the action. If they were dead and not in a position to tell the story. I did like the final third of the book the best, when Mike and Phyllis were no longer reporting on the story, but they were in the thick of it, just trying to survive like everyone else. I like the way that Wyndham ratchets up the tension. This isn't a blockbuster, it's not a sensational thriller. The tale is told soberly, in a rather stiff upper lip tone, characteristic of British writing in the 1950s. The sense of impending doom is built gradually, and I think it's very effective. Wyndham is strong on the psychological and societal aspects of an alien invasion. As the world becomes increasingly uninhabitable due to rising sea levels and the relentless attacks from the aliens, the breakdown of civilization is depicted with haunting realism. The transformation of human society from ignorance to scepticism and disbelief, and on into desperation and eventual adaptation, is handled really well, I thought. Wyndham paints vivid pictures of submerged cities and alien encounters, making it easy for us to immerse ourselves in this bleak and increasingly dystopian world. His prose is clear and concise, which contributes to the overall readability of the novel. Despite being written in the early 1950s, Kraken feels very up to date to me. The ecological disaster, an early climate fiction novel you could argue, is very well drawn and seems very relevant to today. Wyndham's portrayal of a planet in crisis can be seen as a stark warning about the consequences of human actions on the environment. This is my first time reading The Kraken Wakes, and it has been a while since I've read any Wyndham books. I think I would call it second tier Wyndham. Not as strong as Day of the Triffids or The Chrysalid, but still very good. I think it's an enjoyable 7 out of 10 for me. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.